Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Delaware County Board of Supervisors meeting this day, Tuesday, January 26, 2021. I just want to let everybody know that it's tuning in from the outside that we've been warned of potential charter communication disruptions this morning, and be aware that our connectivity may or may not be spotty based on weather conditions. So I apologize in advance if something is to occur, and we'll try to make a corrective action as soon as possible if that does occur. But I appreciate your time joining us this morning. And at this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order and take roll.
Supervisor Hemmingson?
I am here.
Supervisor Starkey?
Here.
Supervisor Short?
Here.
And Chair Howard?
Present.
And I will make note that Supervisor Berkowitz will not be attending today's meeting.
I appreciate that note. And on that note, Kylie, I would like to say the board does wish Supervisor Berkowitz was here with us today, but unfortunately he's had some medical issues that he has in need of addressing with some urgency. And as soon as the board knows more and is able to share that news, we'll be sure to get it out to the community. But the board is wishing Supervisor Berkowitz at this time well in his recovery. So at this time, we'll take a moment of reflection. Thank you very much. Supervisor Hemmingson, can you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Absolutely. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Supervisor Hemmingson. At this time, we reserve it for introduction of new employees, and it is my understanding that we potentially have two new employees to introduce. Ms. Snow, welcome. I understand these might be your employees.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. It is my pleasure to share with you that we have two members of our leadership team that I would like to introduce this morning. This past year, we created a new position, a housing services manager position, and we sought funding for this position. We're very fortunate that the position was funded and we were able to hire. We had an excellent internal recruitment process and had good candidates and are really pleased. Roy Jackson has been in that position just starting this past December. And he brings with him a wealth of experience from 20 years of working in child welfare. And so Roy is in this new capacity to be dedicated to our work with the homeless population and our community partners. So some of the projects that you're familiar with that he'll be working directly on, of course, the Legacy, which is our currently transitional housing, which is being converted to permanent housing. Our mobile shower project, we ordered a mobile shower and I believe it's coming any day now. It maybe already came. And our partnership with Delaware Mission Possible to building and rehabilitating their building to be a shelter. So he will be our contact for those things. And he's with us now. And I'll see if he wants to say a couple words. I'll go ahead and introduce C if we need to get the hand raising thing straightened out. So the other introduction, I'd like to introduce C Tao. She is promoted from being a fiscal manager to being our new assistant director. Unfortunately, we lost our last assistant to another county to be closer to her family. And I am thrilled to have an internal candidate that has experience in our agency that very much complements my experience as a clinician. So her having that fiscal experience and mindset really is a good balance to me. So really excited to have a new team. This creates vacancies in their positions that we're recruiting for. And of course, last month you helped me honor Carmen's retirement. So we've got a few spots in our leadership team that we'll still be filling, and appreciate your support as we go through those changes. And I think C and Roy are on here now and would just like to say a couple of things. Thank you.
Sure thing.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to meet you all.
Pleasure to meet you also, Roy. Okay, that was pretty quick.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me?
Sure can.
Hi, everyone. So I think it's important to share with you all a little bit about myself. I am a first-generation Hmong American, raised here in this very community by my hardworking and humble parents. And now I'm raising my own family on my own here. 6 years ago, as I was wrapping up my last semester of college, I was inundated with the thought of finding a job here in Norte County. Where was I going to work? How would I put my degree to use? And ended up applying for an analyst position within the county. I had no idea what that role encompassed other than, the general job description, the very detailed but somewhat vague skills and knowledge required of the job. Fast forward to today, I'm the assistant director of DHHS. It's been a whirlwind of challenges that has garnered growth and fulfillment for me. I'm very excited for this journey in my new role, and I look forward to continuing to serve the community, my people, and my home. Thank you all.
Thank you, C, and thank you, Roy, for joining us today. We really appreciate the acknowledgement that Heather has given at this time, and the board is acknowledging today with your presence here at the meeting. Really happy to have you as part of the team. Thank you, Heather. Appreciate it. Jay, any new employees besides those two?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, very good. Then at this time, I'd request from the board any deletions, corrections, or additions to the agenda. Okay, seeing none, I'd like to have County Council report out at this time any actions from closed session.
There was one action taken. The board by a 4-0 vote voted to send a letter to Ms. Sutter in response to her cure and correct demand. It's a short letter. I will read it now. It says, "Dear Ms. Sutter, the board is in receipt of your letter dated January 18th, 2021, in which you allege violations of the Brown Act. The board is not in agreement with your statements that the Brown Act was violated and has declined your request to cure and correct. Your complaint is that the Board of Supervisors violated the Brown Act by voting to accept an anonymous donation. The provision you allege the board violated is Government Code Section 56952.6, which defines action taken. The board does not dispute that it took an action. Furthermore, the action was properly agendized as, number 17, approve and authorize the Department of Health and Human Services to accept an anonymous donation of 2 ultra-low temperature freezers for use of vaccine storage and distribution as requested by the Director of Health and Human Services. Government Code Section 54954.2 requires, quote, a brief general description of each item of business to be transacted or discussed at the meeting, including items to be discussed in closed session. A brief general description of an item generally need not exceed 20 words, end quote. The agenda item adequately informed the public of the action to be taken and provided more than, quote, mere clues from which they must then guess or surmise the essential nature of the business to be considered by the local agency, end quote. San Diegans for Open Government v. City of Oceanside 4, Calap 5th, 637. Therefore, there was no violation of the Brown Act. Sincerely, Chris Howard, Chair, Delaware County Board of Supervisors.
Thank you for reading that into the record, Joel.
Chair, if I may, Joel, was there a motion or a second with that 4-0 vote?
It was a motion by Supervisor Hemmingson and a second by, I believe, Supervisor Short.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Starkey, I think.
Okay, so at this time, I'd like to go ahead and move forward with the consent agenda, items 1 through 13 on our agenda. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve consent.
Okay, we have a motion.
I would second that, Mr. Chairman, but I would like to have a little bit of discussion, if we can, before we go through that, on item number 11, about the jail painting project. I don't know if Alan is on the phone, or maybe if Jay, if you know,
we can.
I didn't see what the bids were and what they expected the bids to be in the packet.
Certainly, and if Alan or Jay does have a quick answer to that, I'd like to address it now. If not, then Supervisor Hemmingson, we can hold item number 11 until later in our agenda.
No, it was just information that I thought if somebody had, I would like to know how far out. I mean, I didn't see in the packet where there was any information on that. Maybe we're not privy to it. Maybe we're not allowed to have it. But normally, I think we see what the bids were, and it's not anything. I'm certainly wanting to reject it if it was way over, but I don't have any information on that. So I don't want to pull it off, not to take it out of the vote, but I did want to have that information.
Okay, so let's.
Chair, Alan is on right now.
Okay, Alan, do you have a relatively quick answer for Supervisor Hemmingson on that?
Absolutely. I was originally, when we're talking about doing this project, I talked to a couple of local painters. They said $35,000 to paint the building. We sent out the bid. No local painters showed up. We had 2 out of county Southern California agencies bid the job. And I may be incorrect, but I believe the low one was 180,000 and the high one was 268,000. Both of which are something that there's no way we could take on.
No, understandable. But I kind of wish that information would have been in the packet. You know, that's certainly well out of range, and maybe we need to reconnect with our local painters and see if we can't get something done there. Thank you. I appreciate it.
So quickly on that one, supervisors, we hit every licensed painter in Delaware County, and we were surprised to not get one coming forward, and we will through a second bid process, go back and resolicit and hit every one of them again.
Okay. Thank you very much. Jerry, you're good with the response. We can move on then? Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, so we do have a motion and a second on the table. Let's go ahead and open it up for public comment on the consent agenda.
Chair, I'm not seeing any public comment on the consent agenda at this time.
Okay, thank you, Kylie. Then let's move forward and poll the vote.
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Supervisor Hemmingson?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Chair Howard?
Yes. All right. At this time, we do have some special guests with us today on one of our agenda items, which is to recognize Supervisor Cowan, which is item number 7. And it's my understanding that we have representation from Congressman Huffman's office, representation from Assemblyman Wood's office, and also representation from Senator Mike McGuire's office. If anyone of those representatives would like to join us at this time, I see that John Driscoll is with us today. Good morning, John. I understand you might have a proclamation to read into record for Supervisor Cowan.
I do. Thank you, Chair Howard, and hello to all the supervisors who are here, and to Aaron and to Senator McGuire. Lori, it'd be great if I could see you here, but you're not on my screen. But I do want to present you virtually with a certificate of special congressional recognition from the congressman. There you are. and you know, before I go ahead and read it, just a short proclamation here. I just want to say, you know, the congressman sends his regards and told me to pass on that he enjoyed working with you very much, and especially on last chance grade. I mean, we all know how hard you've pushed on last chance grade, and you know, you are part of a larger collective that is trying to make that thing happen and make it happen well. And your attitude throughout that has been fantastic. I also have enjoyed, you know, knowing you during that time and taking calls from you and, you know, getting a little grief from you from time to time, which is I always appreciate. And so I just wanted to present you with this this congressional recognition here, which I think Kylie got me a mailing address for you, so I'll mail it out when we have it. But it's a certificate of special congressional recognition presented to Lori Cowan, Delaware County Board of Supervisors, presented in recognition of many years of public service to Delaware County. First elected to the Delaware County Board of Supervisors in 2012, Lori worked tirelessly on education, homelessness, and transportation issues. Through her work on Congressman Huffman's Last Chance Grade stakeholder group, Lori has been a strong voice in supporting a permanent fix to the long-standing landslide issues on US Highway 101. Lori's approach to solving the Delaware County community's problems and her commitment to leadership deserves our deep congratulations for this well-earned recognition and best wishes on her future endeavors. Signed, Congressman Jared Huffman. So thank you again, Lori. So appreciate having worked with you these past years.
Thank you, John, for reading that into the record, and appreciate you having time today to join us. I see that our honored Senator Mike McGuire is on the line with us too also today, and it's my understanding that Mike is here to present a joint resolution potentially to the board for Supervisor Cowan.
Well, good morning, Mr. Chair, to each of the board members. Good morning to each of you, to Mr. Serena, CAO, to the dedicated staff. So grateful to be able to be with each and every one of you. And on behalf of Assemblymember Jim Wood, and we would be grateful if Aaron Dunn, his fantastic district representative, would be able to say a few words as well. But on behalf of Assemblymember Jim Wood, we are grateful to co-present Supervisor Cowan with the highest honor of the California legislature. It's the Golden Resolution this morning. I think we all know that community service is who Lori Cowan is. She's dedicated her time and she's dedicated her adult life to community service, whether it's with Mission Possible to try to solve the homelessness challenges in Delaware County, serving students and families on the school board, helping lead the effort to start up the RVN to RN program at the College of Redwoods Delaware campus, working tirelessly to be able to help secure $50 million for the Last Chance Grade project and to help lead the airport expansion project. Supervisor Cowan constantly took bold steps to improve the lives of all Delaware County residents. She took her job personally. She wasn't afraid to tackle the most prickliest of issues, including homelessness, and she led with distinction. She was responsive to the people that she worked for, the hardworking residents of Delaware County. And she was a tenacious advocate, let me tell you, a tenacious advocate for rural communities, and every once in a while would break out the 2x4. Supervisor Cowan, it's wonderful to see you. I know that we are gonna be keeping in touch. It has been a true pleasure to be able to work with you over these past several years. And Assemblymember Wood and I are so excited to be able to provide you with this well-deserved recognition. And Mr. Chair, through your authority, I would now like to be able to turn it over to Aaron Dunn on behalf of Assemblymember Wood. And it is so good to see you, Ms. Dunn.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Chair and Supervisors and Lori. And the Assembly member is sorry you couldn't be here this morning, but wanted me to be sure and share his appreciation for your constant spirit of collaboration. And as the resolution said, your tenacity and your leading with distinction. And he wishes you all great success in your future undertakings, and it's good to be here and be able to see you today. So congratulations.
Thank you, Aaron, for also congratulating Supervisor Cowan and Senator McGuire for joining us today. These are well-deserved recognitions for Supervisor Cowan. I'm afraid we don't have a golden 2x4 to present Supervisor Cowan today, or a special seal of the Senate and Assembly, but the board does have a resolution that I'd like to read into the record today for Supervisor Cowan. Whereas Lori Cowan has concluded her service as supervisor on December 31st, 2020, after serving as member of the Del Norte Board of Supervisors for 4 years. And whereas Lori was first elected to District 2 Supervisor in 2017, and whereas Lori was an advocate for constituents of District 2 and those with access and functional needs, and did so with respect for those individuals in need. And whereas Lori has been a steadfast advocate for the less fortunate, and was instrumental in the partnership with Del Norte Mission Possible, as well as bringing together local nonprofits in order to provide short-term solutions to those in need in Del Norte County community, which included the creation of a mobile shower program. And whereas during her tenure, Lori was a member of numerous boards and commissions, including the Juvenile Justice Commission, Last Chance Grieved Stakeholders Committee, Solid Waste Management, JPA, Intergovernmental Relations Committee, Mental Health Advisory Board, No Place Like Home Committee, Healthcare District 2x2, Sister City 2x2, Safe and Healthy Families Committee, and Health Workforce Committee. And now therefore be it resolved that the Del Norte County Board of Supervisors hereby acknowledges the diligence and dedication of Lori Cowan as exhibited during her term of service to Del Norte County. Be it further resolved that the Board of Supervisors expresses appreciation and best wishes to Lori and her family, and good luck in her personal endeavors. Passed and adopted this day by the Board of Supervisors of Del Norte County, State of California, by unanimous poll vote. At this time, Supervisor Cowan, we'd appreciate any words of wisdom.
I don't know about wisdom. It's been truly an honor to serve the community for the past 4 years. And even further back, you know, as Senator said, with the school district. I love Del Norte County. I raised my family here. The words from all of you, John, thank you. I was able to talk to Congressman Huffman over the phone, but thank you for passing along that as well. Aaron, you've been a pleasure. Your smiling face, always there to answer my calls and to be that voice to the Assemblyman. Assemblyman Wood, thank you. AB 204 was another thing that was huge for Del Norte County, and he helped us do that, which was great. Senator McGuire, I'm going to miss you, but yes, we will stay in touch. You probably put up with the most from me over the years, but you were always there, always there. Phone calls, texts. I know I bothered you often, but that's what my job was, to get things done. And I enjoyed working with you. You were great. Your staff, past and present, always were there as well. To the board that I worked with, you guys are great. Thank you. Staff at the county building. Gonna miss everybody. Gonna miss the people. Not gonna miss the other things, but everything will keep going forward. I'm just happy that I was a part of it, and moving on to a different part of my life now, and very excited about that. So thank you all very much.
Supervisors, I don't want to take center stage, but if there's any supervisor willing to share this morning, any thoughts with Supervisor Cowan, now would be appropriate.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, Lori, good luck. Hope you have success in your future endeavors. I did enjoy working with you. I thought you did right by the county, and it was all good, and hopefully it'll all be good in the future. So thanks.
Thank you very much. And I'll echo those remarks by Supervisor Hemmingson. Lori, you were a stalwart and really challenged yourself to be out there in front of the community, but more importantly, you had the tenacity to go after it. And that's very rare in a community leader, and you made a difference, especially with No Place Like Home. And without those efforts, I don't think we would have seen what we have today, which is permanent housing for many needy residents in our community. And you have to be truly recognized for those services today. We all wish you the best of luck, and more importantly, look forward to seeing you in the future, maybe in a more sunny area of the state of California. Thank you for joining us today. At this time, we'll say goodbye to our honored guests. and move on to our 10:25 time item, which is public comment. Kylie, can you please take a look at that and let us know if anybody's with us today that would like to make public comment. Members of the public may address the board on matters which are within the jurisdiction of the board. If you are addressing the board regarding a matter listed on the agenda, you may be asked to hold your comments until the board takes up that matter. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Kylie?
Chair, I'm not seeing any hands raised for public comment at this time.
All righty. Then, since it is not 10:30 at this point in time, we're going to go ahead and then move on with the general government section of our agenda and start with item number 19. Direct the formation of an ad hoc committee to review the administration manual, appoint Supervisor Valerie Starkey to that ad hoc committee, and direct staff to assist and support the ad hoc committee as necessary, as requested by the county administrative officer.
So as noted in what the chair just read, pretty straightforward. We are looking at doing an update in regards to the administration policies and procedures manual, and it will include the involvement of a number of different departments, department heads, and staff. And by doing this, we have a member of the board available to give us feedback, and we would like to go forward with that with the at the board's pleasure.
Mr. Chairman, I would move for approval.
Thank you, Supervisor Hemmingson. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Supervisor Short. Public comment on this agenda item, Kylie.
Chair, I'm not seeing any public comment at this time.
Thank you, Kylie. Then we'll go ahead and bring it back to the board for a poll vote. Kylie?
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Supervisor Hemmingson?
Yes.
Chair Howard?
Yes. All right. At this point in time, I'd like to take up item number 20 under general government. Approve and authorize the Department of Health and Human Services new integrated caseworker 1 to start at step B as requested by the Director of Health and Human Services. Are you
I will move
still,
to,
Heather? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
If you want to talk to Heather, I was just going to move to approve that item.
I want to know if Ms. Snow had anything to say on this topic before we move to a motion.
I don't have anything to add. I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
You're welcome. Very good. Sorry to interrupt, Supervisor Starkey. Please.
I will make a motion to approve and authorize the Department of Health and Human Services new integrated caseworker 1 to start at step B as requested by the Director of Health and Human Services.
I would second.
Okay. We'll go ahead and I think Darren had that first, so we'll recognize Supervisor Short with the second on that motion. Any public comment on the agenda item, Kylie?
Chair, I'm not seeing any public comment at this time.
Very good. We'll go ahead and bring it back to the board for a poll vote. Kylie?
Supervisor Hemmingson?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Chair Howard?
Yes. All right. We've got a few minutes left till 10:30, so we're going to go ahead and move on with budget transfer items number 21 on our agenda. Approve and adopt budget transfer number 01-03 in the amount of $807,641 with the CVD County Service Area number 1 budget unit for the inclusion of Proposition 1 round integrated regional water management implementation grant received by the County Service Area number 1 to replace and add generators at 11 sanitary sewer lift stations and to install or construct protective generator structures as requested by the Director of the Community Development Department. I do see Heidi with us today. Ms. Kunstl, do you have anything to add to this item?
Let's see here. No, you pretty much covered everything. This is really an exciting thing for us. We've been waiting for this for a very long time. It's going to give us a sense of security that we don't currently have whenever we have power outages. So this is very good news for the County Service Area number 1.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve item budget transfer item number 21 on the agenda, 01-03.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
I'll second that.
And we have a second. Kylie, can you please open up public comment and see if there's anybody available for public comment on this item?
Chair, I'm not seeing any public comment at this time.
Very good. We'll go ahead and bring it back to the board and take a full vote at this time.
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Supervisor Hemmingson?
Yes.
And Chair Howard?
Yes. All right, and it looks like it's 10:30 at this time, and we do have a timed public hearing to adopt a resolution authorizing the Board of Supervisors to enter into an energy services contract for implementation of energy improvements to the county-owned facilities in accordance with Government Code Section 4217. I won't read the entire description of the public hearing, which you can see as item number 15. And Jay, can you go ahead and kick this off, please?
Yeah, Alan is on here also to speak to it. The process that we've gone through has taken quite some time. We have had some significant issues with the deferred maintenance over the years, and looking at ways to do some relatively significant projects while also saving as much funding as possible. One of those ways is to go through an energy efficiency program project. Under the government code, it allows us to source that with an individual company. We were approached by Aircon with a proposal. They have done an initial audit and an investment grade audit that indicated that the project itself could be very much successful in regards to energy efficiency and savings. And they're on today to also give their input. And I'll let Alan go over the details of the project as it is right now, but we've been through future facilities at least twice, and we've been back to the board for guidance through a presentation made by Aircon. And now we're back with the final product from that. And with that, I'll let Alan go over what the project is and what those advantages are.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. I'll say Jay went over most of my speech with the whole timeline deal, but we'll definitely dive into what the project is. One thing that I definitely want to point out that this is actually number 3 on our capital improvement project as well. So that will be covering one of the 8 items, which is going to make me real happy because I like to get those things taken off as quickly as we can. I would also like to point out that, yes, even though we are sole sourcing this project, I did do my research and I made sure that the prices that the Aircon folks were giving us were reasonable, specifically as it relates to the Flynn HVAC system. I don't like to just take everybody's word for things, so I did go out and I sourced local vendors to discuss opportunities for them to possibly upgrade our system. None of them felt confident in doing it because it was such a large project. They put me in contact with a company out of Oregon, which came in and quoted us at like almost $300,000 to do this. The project based on Aircon is under $250,000. So at that point, it was let's definitely move ahead with Aircon. What the project will entail is a complete replacement of our boiler in the basement, as Supervisor Howard calls it, the Dragon. It was built and put in 1984, and it has far exceeded its life expectancy, as well as there are California regulations which require 24/7 monitoring for that unit. And that's why it's actually been down since we were notified of such. So that's why there's a lot of space heaters in your guys' offices at these points right now. The other portion of this will be doing a complete LED conversion to the Flynn Center, the jail and juvenile hall. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Andy. And this is Andy, he's been our primary.
I'm sorry, you broke up there, Alan. I'll make sure I understand your question.
I'll say that the LED portion of the project is for the juvenile hall, the sheriff's office, and the Flynn Center, correct?
Yes, and also the animal control shelter. We're doing some replacement there. So it's actually 4 locations.
Okay, so, well, and animal controls as well. So say, is there anything you'd like to add in here, Andy? Because obviously you guys know exactly what you're doing. You've been doing it for a lot of years.
Yeah, well, I think what I would say, and we've got some other folks here on with us as well that are far more technically inclined than I am. We know that in addition to the boiler, the age and the maintenance issues and this boiler watch code aspect that the county is addressing, you've had comfort issues. And we spent a lot of time working with staff on how best to approach that. And the reality is we're not going to know everything until we get in there and start working, but we think we've done a real responsible approach to getting in, to dive in. We put some money in there in the event that we think that we are going to need to replace stuff. And quite honestly, if we don't do that, we're not going to ask you to pay us for something that we haven't done. And that's a possibility. It may be that we can do some adjustments without having to go in there and replace equipment. So that's what I would add there. I don't know if anybody else has got any more technically related questions. And again, I can throw easily over to a couple other folks that are on here with us.
Okay, we'll go ahead then and open it up at this time for any questions by the board for Andy or others joining us today to discuss. If there's questions available, now would be a good time.
Yeah, I don't have any questions, just comments. Andy, thanks to you and all your crew for everything that they've done. I know we've been working on this. This goes back to pre-COVID days, which at this point we know is over a year ago. And you know, or at least my thoughts were that we would have all of this stuff taken care of last summer, so that we could enjoy that little bit of heat through these winter months. And finally, we're going to get something done. You know I've been working with you and with our staff in trying to push this forward. And it's kind of like pushing a rope sometimes. It was a very difficult process. And I'm happy that we're finally getting there. So appreciate all your hard work and everything you guys have done.
We are appreciative as well of the opportunity.
Hey, Supervisor, having said this, I was initially contacted by Andy on May 5th of 2019. So we're rapidly approaching the 2-year project.
Yeah. Thank you, Supervisor, and thank you, staff, for helping to get us to this point. And also thank you, Andy, for joining us today. As Alan alluded to, our Dragon was worn out and tired of heating our facility and decided that it was best to audition for the Game of Thrones, as a position did open up last season. So we're happy about that. The Dragon will move on, and more importantly, we'll be able to provide heat for our staff in our gorgeous county facility in the future. So thank you for joining us today. So at this time, I'm going to go
Supervisor Howard?
Yes, Alan?
I do have to read a portion, as it was pointed out to me. So
I will go ahead and read that, Alan, the remainder of that agenda, if that's what you're talking about.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, very good. So based on the following recommendations and findings, that the proposed projects are in the best interest of the county because it would significantly improve energy savings, efficiency, and health and safety, provide environmental benefits, and result in long-term cost savings for the county. That the anticipated cost to the county for thermal or electrical energy under the contract will be less than the anticipated marginal cost to the county of thermal, electrical, or other energy that would have been consumed by the county in the absence of the purchase. And 3, adopt a resolution authorizing the chair of the Board of Supervisors to execute a contract with Aircon Energy, Inc. for energy measures consistent with the terms described in the staff report in the amount of $547,728 for said improvements as requested by Alan, our building and maintenance director. At this time, I'll entertain a motion adopting those items.
I would
Sounded
move
like
to approve.
Supervisor Hemmingson wanted to do that.
I do. I want to get this approved. Yes.
Very good. So we have a motion on the table. Did I
I'll
hear a
second.
second? Yeah. Thank you, Supervisor Short. Let's go ahead and open up item number 15 for public comment. Kylie?
Chair, I'm not seeing any public comment at this time.
One sec.
Very good then. Let's go ahead and take the poll on this item.
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Supervisor Hemmingson?
Yes.
Chair Howard?
Yes. All right. Appreciate everybody joining us today. And Supervisor Hemmingson, glad you stayed on top of this. Everybody will enjoy having heat one of these days.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Take care. Have a great day.
You too.
All right. At this time, it is 10:40, and we are being joined by Dr. Raywald for his COVID-19 update. I believe Dr. Raywald is with us at this time. Good morning, Dr. Raywald.
Good morning. Can you all hear me well?
We certainly can. Loud and clear.
So I will try and be brief, allow time for questions. There's probably a lot of stuff out there that people want to know about.
There are.
Overall, our trend has been pretty good. I'm happy to report that. Case numbers have declined quite a bit and seem to be holding that pattern. Just keep our fingers crossed that it continues to hold, but it's good news. We did hear yesterday, late yesterday, about an additional death in our county at the hospital last week that didn't get reported to us right away, but we did learn about it. So we do have 3 total that we know of in our county now, which is unfortunate. And I just want to express our condolences from the department to the family and friends of that individual. Overall, I think our operational picture as a county is pretty good. We're more or less on track with our vaccination plan that we submitted to the state. There've been a couple setbacks, and I'm sure you're aware of at least one of them, which is the hold that we had on some of the Moderna vaccine that was shipped to us. That was actually quite a large amount that we had on hand. Fortunately, the hold didn't last very long, but it did set us back a little bit last week. So we're trying to make up tracks this week. You know, we're getting a lot of, you're probably all seeing it, there's a lot of mixed messages coming from higher up the chain about vaccination, and it's kind of hard to sort through all of that. But I'm going to keep it as simple as I can, because I think the bottom line is that we just don't have sufficient supply to really expand our vaccination program in the way that people would like to have it happen, including myself. I'd love to be able to, man, if we had enough vaccine, I'd love to be able to get everybody in the county vaccinated in like a month or less. I mean, literally everybody. That'd be the perfect world for us. But the vaccine supply is just a trickle and really needs to be a flood. So we're kind of in the same boat that everyone else in the state is. And I don't think it's really a state issue. It's more of a general supply issue from the manufacturers. So until that is solved at a level that's way beyond us, I think we're going to have a fairly slow rollout, but we are finishing our 1A program pretty much this week and next week. And simultaneously, we've taken some initial steps to start vaccinating seniors in a more robust way. Right now, we're planning on some mass vax events probably in the next 2 weeks, run through our health department with the assistance of volunteers and some partners. We're also hearing from our primary care clinics that they really are motivated to try and vaccinate people within their patient panels who meet those criteria. But again, the supply chain for vaccine is the holdup. We don't have enough to divvy it up to everyone, so to speak. I was just on the phone this morning with Sutter. They have enough vaccine on hand to match the first vaccines that they were given. So basically they have their second doses, and they haven't had any news about anything else forthcoming. So we're kind of all in the same picture at the moment, low supply of vaccine. We hope that things improve soon. I also want to talk a little bit about the variants that people have been hearing about, the mutations, the mutated strains. I think the jury is a little bit still out about how well all our vaccines are going to work for all of these variants. I think the testing that I've been able to dig up indicates that some of these variants are going to be resistant to immunity from the original virus, at least in part. But whether that plays out in the clinical experience that people have if they get exposed to these new variants, we just don't know yet. So I think we're going to learn a lot over the next 2 months about the mutated strains that have shown up around the world. And I think people should just stay tuned, honestly, because I'm learning about it just about as fast as everyone else is, because the information is out there. So happy to take any questions that people have. I don't want to make this too long because I'm sure there's a lot out there.
Supervisor Hemmingson.
Yes, Dr. Raywalt, thank you so much. The first thing I would like to know is how many vaccine, or I don't know whether it's vials, I don't know what you call it, but how many doses are we getting?
You kind of broke up there at the end, but I think you asked how many doses are we getting per week or per month?
Yeah. Yeah, whatever. Week, month.
It varies. We had 1 week we had availability to order about 500 doses of Moderna, and the following week we had 0. Last week we ordered 300 doses of Moderna. This week we have 100 available. So it's averaging about 200 to 300 a week for this 4 weeks. And that's not a big supply. You know, in phase 1B, we have at least conservative estimate of 5,000 people to vaccinate. That's going to take a long time if we're getting 300 doses a week. It's take a long, long time. So we really need to, I don't know if there's anything we can do at the local level. We just have to hope that we can get better access to vaccine. One thing that may change a little bit for us is we do have our freezers in place and data logged enough so that we can report to the state now that we are capable of receiving Pfizer vaccine. That may change our operational profile quite a bit, but we won't know the answer to that literally for a couple of weeks, whether they're going to start to be able to direct ship to us and how much, because they have to recalculate where we are in the allocation scheme at the state level. So we'll find out in a couple of weeks if that's going to impact our vaccine supply or not. That would help immensely because they would ship us nearly 1,000 doses at a time. Do that every week, but if they could ship us even once a month or something like that, it would improve things a lot for us.
Great. The other question is, and I apologize if I'm breaking up. I can't tell that I'm breaking up on this end, but is there a list? How does a person get on the list? Do we have to go through our primary healthcare facility, or can we get on a list with the county for getting the vaccine? What's the procedure there?
Yeah, what we're asking people to do is if they are interested in getting the vaccine and they know that by their age they qualify for this next round, that they either contact us at the health department just to tell us their name and how to reach them and that they are interested, and their date of birth so we know that what their age is, or they contact their primary care provider for the same purpose. They have to bear in mind that their primary care offices do not have vaccine yet. They've all expressed interest in doing this for their patients, but they don't have the vaccine to make it happen yet. So we're not at that. But if we can get names on a list that they can work with in their offices or forward to us, if, when the time comes that we have enough vaccine to make our mass vaccination clinics run and make sense, then we can start working with those lists and we can reach people and contact them and set things up for them. Right now, we just want to know who's interested, because not everybody is. I mean, that's been our experience with the 1A rollout is, in some places, 50% of the eligible people decline to get the vaccine. We don't think that's going to hold for the seniors among us, because I think they all understand their risk is higher. But nonetheless, there are going to be people who are not going to want to. So we think it's easier for them to contact us or their primary care provider office. Just let us know that they're interested. And then we'll take it to the next step after that.
And what is that phone number? Do we call in, or do we have to go down in person? Do you have a phone number that we can call to get on the list?
Well, the public health line should work. We're setting up a call center even as we speak to try and handle the volume of calls. And I think there's going to be a second number for that, but I don't know what it is today. So okay. Yeah, you can call the public health department directly or call your primary care office directly. And either route should work because they're working with us to monitor those lists. And when we get vaccine that we can give to them, they're going to start calling those folks back.
Thank you.
Supervisor Stark.
Hi, Dr. Raywald. I've not officially met you, so it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So Governor Newsom has lifted the stay-at-home orders, and that really impacted the lower states. We were not under a stay-at-home order. But my question is, with our numbers declining as they have been, which thankfully, and I know we're not ready to relax everything just yet, but what's our projection if our numbers keep staying pretty low, 1, maybe 2, up to 4 per day? How long is it till we can potentially move from purple to the red tier?
That's a tough question. And I know it's on everyone's mind. It's on our mind too. Doing the math, we would have to average less than 2 cases a day and probably hold that for at least 2 weeks before that would qualify us to move to the red tier. So it's on the horizon. It's a little ways off though.
Okay, thank you.
Right now our numbers are in that neighborhood, but we're not quite there yet.
Okay.
So to follow up on that question from Supervisor Starkey, and being part of this California state yo-yo that unfortunately many rural counties are involved with, there seems to be much confusion about this, especially around yesterday's announcement. And it doesn't take long to become confused when you see statements like within Cal Matters reports, which many of us supervisors receive daily. And in the statement this morning, and I'll go ahead and read it to you at this time, as Supervisor Starkey indicated, the stay-at-home regional order was lifted, which hadn't affected us at all. But all but 4 counties are now in the purple tier of the color-coded system, according to this statement. And I'm assuming Delaware County is not one of those 4 at this time. And that is then followed permitting restaurants and gyms to reopen outdoors and hair and nail salons to reopen indoors with modifications. Based on that understanding, Dr. Raywald, are we pretty clear on what we need to do here to kind of get things going on this next level? That's question number 1. And question number 2 is, as you're aware, last October, RCRC and CSAC fought very hard for a rural exemption for populations under the 106,000 mark. And we were able to achieve that before this big burst in December and the regional approach. Now that regional approach has basically been stayed and we're moving back to county by county basis, where do we fall now in what was just 4 months ago an order for populations under 106,000 to have this exemption and more of an ability to craft our own future? That's a question that is plaguing me at this time, especially reading some of the reports I've read this morning. So if you could opine on that, that would be super helpful.
Yeah, in terms of the first question, I think, we are in purple tier, so we kind of have to just live with it. It doesn't make a lot of sense in some ways because of you kind of touched on it. There's some inherent discrepancies in the way it's configured, but it is what it is. I mean, it was worked out over a long period of time. I don't think we're going to win any battles about changing the nature of it. I know there's been some discussion about being a little more inclusive for restaurants being open in the purple tier. And honestly, I think that would be a good step because I mean, we've had some cases connected to restaurants and food service, but it has not been a big driver of cases in our county. And I prefer to go with our local experience rather than base it on a statewide average. We're not in a position to make that call, but I mean, that's my answer to that part of the question, I think. The second question is, the exemption was a means to keep us from dropping down a tier unnecessarily based on some numbers that really can impact a small county quickly. And I don't want to kind of reiterate all of that whole story, but it was a good idea. The problem was when it was set up, they didn't envision how it would work going backwards. In other words, if you're in a lower tier, can you use the same exemption to move up a tier? And under the terms that were agreed upon at the time, the answer to that is no. You have to actually meet the stricter criteria that everyone else has to adhere to, all the bigger counties, in order to move up out of the tier. And that's why, my answer to Supervisor Starkey was we have to have an average that is acceptable to meet the standard numbers to move out of purple and back into red tier. And honestly, I think we could perhaps do that pretty soon, but we have to be able to hold where we are for a while. Alternatively, maybe there could be some efforts to talk to the state about getting that exemption working two ways, make it bi-directional so that we could move up the tier a little bit faster. Operationally, I'm not worried about moving up to the red tier at the moment. I do have to say, though, that we have to be a little bit cautious, and I think the state is being a little bit cautious because we don't know, we haven't been able to measure the impact of these variations of the virus, these mutant strains, which we know are in our state. And by all logic about how viruses behave, they should become, at least the English version should become the dominant virus because it's a little more infectious. And it should outcompete the natural virus that we've been dealing with since the pandemic started. So we may see case numbers actually increase over the next couple months. And I think, that's on everyone's mind. How to prepare for that is a little bit still an open question. I think it may mean that the state is going to be a little bit conservative in just making decisions about changing anything for anybody. But that would be the simplest, best step to take, would be to try and use that exemption in both directions to allow us to expand and open up things a little bit more.
Thank you for expanding on that, Dr. Raywald. It's many of these questions are because our constituents are really getting to the point of extreme frustration. And I know you're aware that we did pass a resolution at our first meeting in January to reflect upon really the desire for a balanced approach in recognition that we still have COVID to deal with here in our community, but our businesses and our children, most importantly, are suffering as a result. And it doesn't take long now to find those studies, which there's multiple out there on the impacts to our children. And I know you work very closely with the Del Norte Unified School District in finding answers to get our children back in the classroom so they don't lose another full year. And it seems like the starts and stops are really impacting not only the mental health of our children, but also their educational future. So I do wish with that resolution that the advocacy of the board members that we do through RCRC and CSAC, that voice will carry. But more importantly, when you speak with your folks at the state level with an Operation Emergency Services and others, that we could make more of a concerted effort to try to challenge that norm and err on the side of caution when we need to, but really start to push and explore new ways to get us jump started. And hopefully we can get there with that cautious approach.
I hope so too.
Okay. Any further questions for Dr. Raywald? Okay. We appreciate your report at this time, Doctor. It's always great to have you join us. Please feel free to join us at our first meeting in February. We hope you have better news at that time about vaccinations.
I hope so too. Thank you again.
You're welcome. All right. We're going to go ahead and move on with our 1050 timed agenda item, which is consider the appeal of the Planning Commission's decision to deny use permit for an outdoor cannabis cultivation and manufacturing operation and choose one of the following three options. Uphold the decision of the Planning Commission resulting in the denial of the use permit. Option 2, approve the appeal as requested by the applicant. to approve the use permit, or 3, approve the appeal as requested by the applicant with new condition number 26 added to address security fencing. Condition 26, prior to issuance of the use permit, the applicant shall construct a 6-foot-high security fence along the property perimeter. The fence shall not impede any dedicated road right-of-ways as shown on Book 6 of parcel maps, page 84. A security gate shall also be constructed that meets the county's fire safe regulations. This item was requested to be put on our agenda by the Community Development Department Planner. I believe Taylor Carsley is with us today. Taylor, if you have time to join us, now would be a great time.
Good morning, board. Can you hear me?
We sure can.
Great. Yeah, thank you for that. And sorry that I provided you a mouthful right there. I'd like to just quickly introduce this appeal and then allow the applicant to, time to present their case. So this was an appeal of a planning commission decision back in December 2020 to deny a use permit application for cannabis cultivation and manufacturing. This was the first cultivation or manufacturing application that staff has received since the board adopted the cannabis regulations back in 2019. So this was a first for us. I provided quite a bit of information in the board report, including the Planning Commission staff report and meeting minutes. If there are any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer those afterward. Basically just to summarize, this would be a 5,000 square foot interior cultivation operation with a small manufacturing component. From a community development standpoint, this application was fairly robust. It did cover the bases required in county code. Staff in the environmental review committee was able to tour the facility, which was helpful in making a recommendation. And the ERC did recommend unanimously to approve this application to the Planning Commission. As far as specific problems the Planning Commission had with the application, these were a little unclear. However, the Planning Commission did have security concerns because the application did not include a security fence proposal. This was, the Planning Commission was informed that now a condition could be added, requiring a security fence. And that did make its way into a motion to approve. That's what you see in that third recommendation, 26, condition 26. Ultimately, the Planning Commission denied, and that is why we are here before the board today, because the applicant filed the appeal. So again, I've sort of presented 3 main options to the board. Upholding the decision of the Planning Commission would deny the use permit. Approving the appeal as requested by the applicant and as recommended by the Environmental Review Committee would approve the use permit. And then there is the option to approve the use permit with a fencing specific condition added to the approval. So again, I'm available for questions, but I think I'd recommend turning this over to the applicant if they're available for a presentation.
Thank you for that recommendation, Taylor. We will at this time go ahead and turn it over to the applicant if they're with us today.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Jeremy Rodriguez, and this is Amber Montgomery.
Hi, thank you guys for hearing our appeal today. Just wanted to say a few things. The applicant has demonstrated that it can and will comply with all the requirements of the state and the county to operate the proposed commercial cannabis activity. The proposed activity as conditioned will not result in unavoidable impacts to the environment or community per your ordinance code 20.67.40, section C 1, 2, and 3. Due to an existing facility, the California State Environmental Quality Act, also known as CEQA, The requirements and reports have found and demonstrated that there is no impact to the community or environment with this project, and it meets all the California state and Del Norte CEQA requirements. Mitigation will still be a consistent condition of approval to satisfy the consistency in the standard operating procedures, and all county and state permits will be obtained and renewed on a yearly basis, allowing for complete oversight of the project. So yeah, that's it. Please let us know if you have any questions.
Certainly. Is there any questions for the applicant at this time? Supervisor Starkey.
I have questions for either Taylor or the applicant. First, to prepare for this, I did drive by the facility, drove all the way around it. I read the appeal. I spoke with Commissioner Trask, who was on the commission to deny this initially, and I reviewed our cannabis ordinances. So that's about all you're gonna get in. It was a very thorough appeal and a very thorough use permit application. My questions are, in the use permit, it talks about odor. And you say that you'll use a charcoal filter system. I just want to know, how effective is that from eliminating, you say no odor. I want to make sure that's been tested and tried.
The charcoal filters have been tested and tried, and they are super effective. Also, I will be using sealed rooms, which in alone helps a lot also, but in addition, I will have charcoal filters.
Okay, great. On the back side of the building, there's solar panels. I'm just wondering, is that a separate business that's going to be operating in that location as well, or are you going to utilize those solar panels to?
I will be utilizing the solar panels, and we have a deal with Pacific Power to
purchase renewable power. Yeah.
Oh, to purchase the renewable energy that is generated by that?
Yes.
Okay.
It'll all be for the one business.
Okay. I was just wondering if there was going to be multiple businesses operating out of there, or so I was just curious about that. The project notification, Taylor, you mentioned in there that you properly notified everyone. I just would like just a recap of what that was exactly.
Yeah. So I would like to mention that there was an issue in notifying the applicants. The applicants themselves did not get notice of the public hearing until I think the day before the Planning Commission meeting. So I would take responsibility for that. However, we did properly notice as required in county code, so 300 foot, every property owner within 300 feet of the facilities were mailed a notice, and then notice was posted in the triplicate and on site 10 days prior to the Planning Commission meeting.
Okay. I'm almost done. Have you considered the impact of the road if there's going to be increased traffic there on Timbers Boulevard?
Yes. So Timbers Boulevard is a private road. It's a private right of way for use of the 3 properties within Timbers Boulevard.
Okay.
The application, involves, I think Jeremy or Amber can correct me, but I think 2 to 5 normal employees. On a regular basis.
Okay.
And then there would be, a surge during trimming activities. So, I mean, it's going to be a very low, I think probably a low impact operation.
Okay. And then signage, it talks about that the signage will be minimal. Will it just have the name of the company where it now is the triplicate, or is it going to say the exact type of business that it is? Do we have to say the exact type of business, or will it just say whatever, Moving North LLC, whatever you choose to name this?
Yeah. So I don't know that signage was proposed in the application. We do have signage code that regulates, the type, the size, height, those types of characteristics of signs. The county doesn't regulate content though of signage, so we can't tell you what to put or what not to put on a sign. Okay. So we take that into consideration with a future signage proposal.
Okay. Yeah. And Jeremy, is it just basically going to be the name of your company?
Yeah, I chose the Moving North just to be kind of vague and not descriptive of as what we are doing. And I think it's better that way for everyone.
Right.
And, if there's a certain way you want the sign, or any way, I will do that exactly how you guys would like.
These are just curiosity things. And then the last question I have is that, because I'm on the fence about the fence issue, I'd like your input on because I believe that this will be a very secure facility based on the use permit that I've read. What's your input on having the fence around the whole property, Jeremy?
Initially, I was going to build a fence, just a standard regular fence that doesn't look out of place or not ordinary. But I decided to wait on the Plan Commission to see if they had any guidelines. And since I didn't have a fence before that, that was a dispute.
Yeah, because my only concern is if we build a fence and it's this big security fence with barbed wire or whatever, are we going to draw more attention to that? So I was just kind of curious where you guys were at with that. Are you still planning on putting up a fence? Or are you waiting?
I feel the same way about the fence, that it's just a new fence being built might just draw more eyes to it. But I will and can build a fence, and I can do whatever type is least impact to the surroundings and visibility.
Thank you for all your answering my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Starkey, for asking those two questions. More importantly, the Timber Boulevard issue, specifically the traffic and also the fencing were two of my concerns. But I'd like to recognize Supervisor Hemmingson first. He did have his hand.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Supervisor Starkey, for really going out there and doing your due diligence. I was concerned about the fence issue myself. Is there something wrong with the security of the building? Because I don't normally think of having to secure a secured building. So, that with the fence, I don't think that's ever a requirement that we thought of for an indoor facility for this type of operation. So really kind of threw me kind of in a loop on this whole thing on why would we require a fencing. I mean, it looks to me like there's enough conditions on this permit already that the security issue, having a fence. I mean, I have a fenced area at my business and it gets cut weekly. I mean, it's a chain link fence and, people go out, snip, snip, snip. But we don't have a problem with people getting into the building. So I'm a little bit concerned about requiring a fencing. If you want to put up a fence, I think that's fine. But I don't know why that seemed to be the sticking point in this particular use permit. I guess more of a comment than a question, but I would think that the building itself would be fairly secure, and I really didn't get a grasp of what the reluctance of the Planning Commission was to approve this. So
the building is fairly secure, and I was going to even add specialized security doors. I think it's pretty secure building, and it's concrete around the sides. So the fence is just an extra step, which is I was just trying to please the people that wanted to see that.
Well, I would think, with this type of a business, you're certainly aware of security issues, and you're going to want to secure your product. So I'm just a little bit lost on the whole thing of the security fence being
I personally don't believe the fence is going to stop anyone who's really trying.
Yeah, and just to be clear, Supervisor Hemmingson, the only reason that option number 3 was added to the board report was because that was a main issue brought up at the Planning Commission, and as I stated, that seemed to appease the Planning Commission up until the time that it was denied. So that's why that was included there. I should also say that these use permits have to be renewed annually, so every year these things basically get reviewed again. There's an opportunity for further discussion on, what's working, what might not be working. If security, if there are security issues, I mean, the sheriff will be notified and, staff will be notified. And, there are avenues that we can take to address issues that come up later as well. So I just wanted to make you aware of that.
So any further questions from the board for the applicant or Taylor this time? Valerie, did I see you have a hand up? Okay.
I just want to follow up on that. I just, so this annual renewal that they need to go through, are we going to keep moving the line down the sand for them and saying, okay, well, now we want this, now we want this, or is there parameters in which they can stay?
Yeah, I mean, so each year the Planning Commission, I think, I don't know what their specific findings are, but they have to make a set of findings each year as part of the annual renewal.
Okay.
And they could, I believe they could require new conditions if there were, issues being brought up.
Okay, thank you.
And Supervisor Starkey, just to be clear, this was a very lengthy deliberation by the Board of Supervisors and by our committee that was tasked to help build this ordinance in the day. I know Joel Campbell Blair really spent a great deal of time with this committee crafting an ordinance that would be reflective of our community values, but more importantly, still allow for this type of business to reside in the community. And, getting through that 1.5 to 2 years of discussion to get to this ordinance and now see it potentially be used with the idea that that line could move, right? So we don't know how this is going to unfold in our community. And that's why the board at the time really hesitated or made some hesitation on the side of caution, just so we could see how maybe the first business would roll through the process. So if there is an opportunity and some changes need to be tweaked to better meet the vision that the board had for our community, it could be done within that year's time span. So that was kind of the thought process behind it. Supervisor Short, I just see you unmuted. So do you have questions?
I just wanted to make a quick comment. I did listen to the discussion at the Planning Commission, and kind of dovetailing off of what Supervisor Hemmingson said, it was even commented in that discussion that people can just almost literally walk through a chain link fence just by cutting it very easily. And I know the crux of the discussion around the fence was theft of the product. And I believe that if the owner, Mr. Rodriguez, is worried about that, then he's going to take actions to protect his product on his own. So I was a little, after listening to the discussion, I kind of realized that where it came from, but was still kind of not sure why we would make it a condition of his operation. So just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you for
I apologize. I wanted to thank Mr. Rodriguez for his willingness to carry out all these measures that are in the permit. You seem very amicable and willing to go forward with the desires of the Planning Commission and the board. Appreciate your attitude there.
Thank you. I appreciate that as well.
Thank you, Supervisor Short. I believe at this time, I've been notified that we do have written public comment, and several letters addressing this. Kylie, if we could go through those written ones first and then open it up for live public comment.
Okay, a lot of these are very similar, so I apologize, but I'm going to read each one. It says, Dear Del Norte County Board of Supervisors, my name is Sharon Goodman. I'm writing in support of Moving North LLC's proposed plan for a cannabis cultivation and manufacturing business at 205 Timbers Boulevard, Smith River. As a senior woman who benefits from the use of cannabis for chronic pain and sleep issues, I appreciate the alternative to the pharmaceutical drugs I used for years and no longer need. Moving North wants to be a welcome part of our community. They will participate in the Adopt a Highway program and will support the Del Norte schools and local programs. I believe their new business will provide the community with good paying jobs for both employees of the company and contractors hired for the project. I believe Moving North's proposed location follows all local and state ordinances, is in the appropriate zoning, and will be compliant with all laws. The people have voted. It is legal and should be treated as any other business without any cannabis specific limitations or restrictions. I believe the proposed business would indeed bring jobs and revenue into our county. It provides an opportunity for growth that Del Norte County should welcome. Thank you for your time and consideration in this matter. Sincerely, Sharon Goodman. And this one says, Dear Del Norte Board of Supervisors, we are writing in support of Moving North LLC's proposed plan for cannabis cultivation and manufacturing business at 205 Timbers Boulevard in Smith River. Moving North wishes to soon become a contributing partner in the Del Norte County's efforts to bring more vitality to our communities. The company will support Del Norte County schools and other local programs and initiatives such as the Adopt a Highway program. We believe Moving North's plans, as proposed, are designed to follow all local and state ordinances, are consistent with zoning and other requirements set forth by the County of Del Norte. We believe this new business will provide the community with good, livable paid jobs for its employees, as well as for the contractors with whom they will work, and will become a local asset that will contribute to the vitalization of the economy in the county needed now more than ever. As it is, the cannabis market, though having been enabled by the voting public, is almost completely undeveloped in Del Norte County, and as a result, we see any economic benefits being sent north to Brookings and south to Humboldt County. Thank you for your time and consideration. Colleen and John Went. The next one says, Dear Del Norte County Board of Supervisors, I am writing in support of Moving North LLC's proposed plan for cannabis cultivation and manufacturing business at 205 Timbers Boulevard, Smith River. Moving North wants to be a welcome part of our community. They will participate in the Adopt a Highway program and will support the Del Norte schools and local programs. I believe their new business will provide the community with good paying jobs for both employees of the company and contractors hired for the project. I believe Moving North's proposed location follows all local and state ordinances, is in the appropriate zoning, and will be compliant with all laws. The people have voted. It is legal and should be treated as any other business without any cannabis specific limitations or restrictions. Thank you for your time and consideration in this matter. Becky Watwood. Next one says, Del Norte County Board of Supervisors, I'm writing in support of Moving North LLC's proposed plan for a cannabis cultivation and manufacturing business at 205 Timbers Boulevard, Smith River. Moving North wants to be a welcome part of our community. They will participate in the Adopt a Highway program and will support the Del Norte schools and local programs. I believe their new business will provide the community with good paying jobs for both employees of the company and contractors hired for the project. I believe Moving North's proposed location follows all local and state ordinances, is in the appropriate zoning, and will be compliant with all laws. The people have voted. It is legal and should be treated as any other business without any cannabis specific limitations or restrictions. Thank you for your time and consideration in this matter. Justin Went. Next one says, Dear Del Norte County Board of Supervisors, I am writing in support of Moving North LLC's proposed plan for cannabis cultivation and manufacturing business at 205 Timbers Boulevard, Smith River. Moving North wants to be a welcome part of our community. They will participate in the Adopt a Highway program and will support the Del Norte schools and local programs. I believe their new business will provide the community with good paying jobs for both employees of the company and contractors hired for the project. I believe Moving North's proposed location follows all local and state ordinances, is in the appropriate zoning, and will be compliant with all laws. The people have voted. It is legal and should be treated as any other business without any cannabis specific limitations or restrictions. Thank you for your time and consideration in this matter. Jeff McMullen. Next one says, Dear Del Norte County Board of Supervisors, I'm writing in support of Moving North LLC's proposed plan for a cannabis cultivation and manufacturing business at 205 Timbers Boulevard, Smith River. Moving North wants to be a welcome part of our community. They will participate in the Adopt a Highway program and will support the Del Norte schools and local programs. I believe their new business will provide the community with good paying jobs for both employees of the company and contractors hired for the project. I believe Moving North's proposed location follows all local and state ordinances, is in the appropriate zoning, and will be compliant with all laws. The people have voted. It is legal and should be treated as any other business without any cannabis specific limitations or restrictions. Thank you for your time and consideration in this matter. Jesse Piercy. The next one says, Dear Del Norte County Board of Supervisors, I am writing in support of Moving North LLC's proposed plan for cannabis cultivation and manufacturing business at 205 Timbers Boulevard, Smith River. Moving North wants to be a welcome part of our community. They will participate in the Adopt a Highway program and will support the Del Norte schools and local programs. I believe their new business will provide the community with good paying jobs for both employees of the company and contractors hired for the project. I believe Moving North's proposed location follows all local and state ordinances, is in the appropriate zoning, and will be compliant with all laws. The people have voted. It is legal and should be treated as any other businesses without any cannabis specific limitations or restrictions. Thank you for your time and consideration in this matter. Sincerely, Larry Thomas. The next one says, Dear Del Norte County Board of Supervisors, I'm writing in support of Moving North LLC's proposed plan for a cannabis cultivation and manufacturing business at 205 Timbers Boulevard, Smith River. Moving North wants to be a welcome part of our community. They will participate in the Adopt a Highway program and will support the Del Norte County schools and local programs. I believe their new business will provide the community with good paying jobs for both employees of the company and contractors hired for the project. I believe Moving North's proposed location follows all local and state ordinances, is in the appropriate zoning, and will be compliant with all laws. The people have voted. It is legal and should be treated as any other business without any cannabis specific limitations or restrictions. Thank you for your time and consideration in this matter. Signed, Nick Mitchell. And this is my final one, and it says, Dear Delaware County Board of Supervisors, I am writing in support of Moving North LLC's proposed plan for a cannabis cultivation and manufacturing business at 205 Timbers Boulevard, Smith River. Moving North wants to be a welcome part of our community. They will participate in the Adopt a Highway program and will support the Delaware schools and local programs. I believe their new business will provide the community with good paying jobs for both employees of the company and contractors hired for the project. I believe Moving North's proposed location follows all local and state ordinances, is in the appropriate zoning, and will be compliant with all laws. The people have voted. It is legal and should be treated as any other business without any cannabis specific limitations or restrictions. Thank you for your time and consideration in this matter. Nate Goodman.
Okay, Kylie, any live comment today?
Yes. Give me just 1 second. I gotta switch gears here. I have a person calling in from 599-1260. You are on. You just need to unmute your mic.
Hi, my name's Brittany. How is everyone today?
Thank you, Brittany. We're great.
Awesome. I am here just in support of this project for this 5,000 square foot indoor. I am very well versed in CEQA documents and within your cannabis ordinance, as well as multiple ordinances throughout California. This project is on the smaller scale, which will not increase any environmental aspects or analyses. And I do believe that this would be a great project for Del Norte. I am constantly traveling through there as a tourist, and there's really not much for me to do sometimes. And to know that a project like this is coming into the community would be a great aspect. And I'm thinking that the tax dollars would really be brought into Crescent City and the Del Norte with this project. I think that if this is approved, you will be very happy with the results of having an operating commercial cannabis business in your county, as well as the state is going to uphold this applicant to a lot of standards and regulations within 8 different agencies that they are going to have to cooperate with. In my experience, the hardest part is the local jurisdiction realizing how monitored these licenses are. Every 30 days, there's an audit. We have to report security cameras to the BCC with a certain amount of time and hours on it. So I believe this applicant would be a really great choice to have your first cannabis license in your county with. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much. Kylie, any further public comment?
Yes. Robert, you are on. You just need to unmute your mic.
Hi, it's Robert Dorigo. I just wanted to speak up and support, I have to go in front of the Planning Commission again, and 2 times now I've gotten 3 votes. The last time I lost one of my votes and luckily regained, got one from another person. It's a very political situation. I felt in the end that by bashing the Board of Supervisors a little bit, I actually got my 3rd vote. They were very angry at you guys. And I'm not sure what the anger is about really, but I agreed with them. You're trying to make an alliance everywhere you go. I'm bad at that, but you shouldn't have to do that to provide a little gig or whatever in the community here. I'm always wondering why we don't have there's a few on Low Divide that wanted to grow too, and I bought $250,000 worth of pot for 2 years in a row from 2 or 3 little growers up there, and when we start thinking about how small our GDP is, it ends up being a significant fraction, unfortunately. And, and there's so much talk about scenic resources, like what a little 2,000 square foot's going to do somewhere, and back of Green Diamond's lands there, I think they report to the county every year and say they provide like 5 local jobs like that. And, these little grows aren't going to do anything to your scenic resources. They're not going to do anything to our small town culture, except for maybe revitalize the idea that somebody can make a living up here manufacturing something. I think it's always going to be the thing we notice is that, we'll be able to revitalize ourselves actually if we send something out of our community rather than invite people here to enjoy it. the type of jobs it makes are two different, one we would traditionally think of as a teenager job, and one we think in manufacturing, you're going to provide for a family. The taxes are high. I would hope that maybe the board would actually amend the ordinance to either amend the ordinance or change. It's hard to say because I have to go in a couple months, but something should be done to where it's an anxiety-ridden process to get this through. Just recently, the state decided to provide all the documents I provided again in some script email to everybody. And after spending about 17 hours of my weekend providing them everything, they sent me an email saying, sorry, you didn't need to do that, And so the state will be a big enough headache for everybody who ends up getting a license. But thank you for your time.
Appreciate those. Any further public comment, Kylie?
Chair, I'm not seeing any at this time.
Okay, well then at this time, we'll go ahead and bring it back to the board for further discussions or questions. Or a motion, for that matter.
I can make a motion. I'm just not very good at it yet. I would like to make a motion on number 2 to approve the appeal as requested by the applicant to approve the use permit.
I would second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table. Any further comment from the board? Okay, I would briefly reflect upon the discussion here today. It is very obvious that the Rodriguez's have a lot of friends in the community and a lot of well wishes for their success as a business. My apologies that there's still, even though we have ordinances in place that have been passed by the county, that even though the steps are necessary through our planning commission, they are still entitled to their opinions, but we do have an appeal process for a reason. And I'm glad that you guys were willing to appeal this to the Board of Supervisors. That being said, we'll go ahead and take poll vote. Now, Kylie, please pull the board.
Supervisor Short?
You're on mute, Darren.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yes.
Thank you.
Supervisor Hemmingson?
Yes.
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Chair Howard?
Yes. Thank you for joining us again today, and welcome to District 3.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Taylor. Appreciate your time on this matter. All right. We are a little over time on our timed agenda items, but we do have our last timed item for 11 o'clock, which is to receive a presentation from representatives from the California Geological Survey, California Governors of Emergency Services, and the Redwood Coast Tsunami Work Group regarding the history of tsunami hazard mapping in Del Norte County and the history of new tsunami hazard area map products, and approve and adopt a resolution adopting the California tsunami hazard area maps for Del Norte County as requested by the Emergency Services Officer. I believe, yes, I do see Kimmy. Welcome, Kimmy. Thank you for joining us today. Please go ahead and get started.
Thank you, Chairman Howard and supervisors and citizens of Del Norte County. We appreciate you providing us some time today to present the new tsunami hazard area maps for Del Norte County. We have with us today 2 presentations. The first will be from Todd Becker, an earthquake and tsunami program specialist from Cal OES. And the second will be from Dr. Jason Patton, engineering geologist with California Geological Survey. I also have on the line with us today Rick Wilson, who is the senior engineering geologist from California Geological Survey, and Ryan Alliard, who is the warning coordination meteorologist with NOAA, and also co-chairs with me the Redwood Coast Tsunami Work Group. So we have quite a bit of material to get through, and I know we're already running a little bit behind, so I'm going to hand it over to Todd to get started, and then we'll all be sticking around afterwards to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Welcome, Todd.
Thank you. Thank you, Kimmy, and we appreciate the board's time to have us here today to discuss the updated tsunami area maps. As Kimmy said, my name's Todd Becker with the California Office of Emergency Services, and I work in our earthquake and tsunami program. For a brief little background about the California Tsunami Program, it's a program that's led by the California Office of Emergency Services, my office, and the California Geological Survey Rick and Jay's office. And we work throughout the state to implement preparedness, mitigation, and response activities for tsunami. And one of the key tools in our tsunami planning toolbox is the tsunami hazard area maps that we're here to discuss today. The local community planning and response activities that these maps support is critical for saving lives from future potential tsunami events. And in spite of everything that we all know has been going on during the last year, this map process has continued to move forward in Del Norte County, and at the state level, we're really excited about that. And this accomplishment is due to the hard work and dedication of the Del Norte County Office of Emergency Services, and Kimmy Scott, who's on here, the National Weather Service and the Redwood Coast Tsunami Work Group, Ryan Aylward, and then also the many first responders and community partners in Del Norte County who provided their local expertise and feedback during the map development and review process. So on behalf of the California Tsunami Program, we extend a big thank you to Del Norte County for their ongoing support of tsunami preparedness in California. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jay Patton with the California Geological Survey, who will give you some more information and details regarding the tsunami hazard maps.
Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. First, of course, I'd like to thank Kimmy Scott for arranging this and the board for having us here today. And today we commemorate the 321 years since the last Cascadia subduction zone earthquake and tsunami. And those in Del Norte County may be some of the most well-informed people in the state of California when it comes to tsunami hazards. But let's briefly review some of the basics before we delve into the tsunami hazard updates. So on the left, we have a map of the Pacific Northwest showing British Columbia, Washington, Oregon, and California. And this has the main plates, the North America plate, and the Pacific plate, and the Juan de Fuca and Gorda plates, which are subducting beneath the North America plate along the Cascadia subduction zone. And if we look at our cross section in the upper right corner, we can see on the left where in between earthquakes, we see that the Gorda plate is diving down beneath the North America plate, and they're locked along the fault just like Velcro. And as that plate, the Gorda plate moves down, it drags down the North America plate on the west side, and it pushes up the North America plate on the east side. And then the opposite happens. As soon as that fault slips during an earthquake, the area that was going down goes up, and the area that was going up goes down. And the animation shows this also. And so in between earthquakes, when the fault is locked, you can see that the island with the tree on it is going down. And then that proceeds until the strength of the fault is exceeded and we have an earthquake and it slips. And then you'll see that the island goes up, and that's when we generate a tsunami. So that's a little review. And so I'll just go through some questions that many people have. Why are we updating these maps? Well, the maps are being updated statewide because of new information that we've learned since the 2009 maps were released. Also, there's a need to update these maps every 5 to 10 years, and the existing maps are over 10 years old. But overall, better scientific information and better tools will make better maps and safer communities. So also, how has the 2011 Japan tsunami influenced the update of our maps in Del Norte County? Well, our evaluation of the experience in Japan indicated that we needed to incorporate new information and more consistency into the map results and make sure that we were at least capturing tsunami events which could occur over a 1,000-year period, which is what Japan had done, is that they based their tsunami hazard maps on a 500-year tsunami, historic tsunamis, while the 2011 tsunami was more like a 1,000-year tsunami. So our new maps are based on modeling of a 1,000-year tsunami. Have the tsunami hazard or evacuation maps changed dramatically in Del Norte County? Well, the short answer is no, and there are some minor changes, but overall our existing maps are good, so existing tsunami evacuation plans probably won't need to change. However, for where the maps have changed, we'll work with cities and counties to reach out and target the people who live in those areas so that they are informed of these changes and they can update their tsunami evacuation plans appropriately. And finally, do these maps account for local and distant tsunami sources? Well, the inundation maps, the tsunami hazard area maps, are based on a suite of very large and realistic tsunami scenarios, including both distant and local sources. And so tsunami inundation maps or tsunami hazard area maps show where tsunami science suggests that tsunami waves may flood on land. And then tsunami evacuation maps show predetermined areas to be evacuated when a tsunami is expected. So the state of California tsunami program is constantly evaluating tsunami events and potential tsunami sources to ensure that the coastal communities are safe from tsunami hazards. We even have our own local source for tsunami, the Cascadia subduction zone. So the 2009 maps were based on low resolution topographic data, while the updated tsunami hazard maps and data are based on higher resolution elevation data. You can see much higher resolution here. Here's another example of the same area, and this map shows the This map shows the 2009 inundation area as a red line, and here's an updated tsunami hazard area as a yellow line. And then if we look at them together, we can see that in some places, the 2021 tsunami hazard area is a little bit larger than the 2009 tsunami inundation area. And these are the areas that we are going to want to focus our education and outreach efforts to help people update their tsunami plans. And finally, when we're in a tsunami evacuation or hazard area and we receive an official or a natural tsunami warning, like a large earthquake, we use the evacuation maps to help us learn where to go to avoid the harms caused by tsunami waves. Evacuation maps show the tsunami hazard area in one color and the area outside of the hazard area in a different color. To avoid harm from a tsunami, move outside of the tsunami hazard area. And finally, I'd like to highlight the California Tsunami Preparedness Guide available at tsunami.ca.gov, as well as our tsunami hazard area maps, which will be posted on that website. And so I'd like to present a list of our partners and open this up for any questions that people might have. So I'm going to stop sharing, but we can go back to to any slide in that presentation if anyone wants to see those.
I appreciate that presentation, Jason. On the animation, we're hoping the substitution of a palm tree with a redwood would be appropriate for our area. We'll look forward to that in future animation slides. Quickly, I noticed as you're rolling through the new mapping, basically our intersection of Washington Boulevard and Highway 101 was essentially within the inundation or run-up zone for a tsunami. That causes a little concern as it's our 4-lane highway, so to speak, north out of town. I'm assuming the ROES and others are really taking this into consideration when planning evacuation routes. Can you, someone opine on that real quick, how that now influences future planning?
I'll take that one. So this is the first step, right? Adopting these maps to influence our future planning decisions. And so we've worked with local stakeholders throughout this entire process over the last about 18 months. And so we've got a really good group put together who's focused on updating our planning needs and response actions once these maps are adopted. Part of what happens after we adopt this of course is the worst case event, right? And most of the tsunami events that we're going to encounter in Del Norte County are going to be much lesser events. And so we plan our actions based on a set of criteria with different levels of potential inundation. We don't ever want to try to evacuate and cause chaos for more people than is necessary, but we also want to make sure that we do have the information and the plans in place in case we do face that worst case scenario. So the short answer to your question is yes, those evacuation needs are going to be addressed based on the outcome of this. As you know, coming to you soon will be our updated emergency operations plan. On the heels of that, we'll be bringing forward a number of annexes to that plan. And one of those annexes, it's going to be a new transportation and evacuation annex, which is going to address all of our main hazards in Del Norte County.
Okay, terrific. Just two follow-ups on that. One, in this worst case scenario, how high a wave are we considering in this 2011 mapping?
Well, that's a good question. And having been an educator at university level classes, one of my most common responses, well, it's complicated. And the reason why it's complicated is because as the wave, comes across the shoreline, it's at one size. And as that wave travels across the land, it slows the water down and it decreases the height of that wave. So there's that one thing. And then the size of the wave at the coastline is actually different in different places along the coastline. So I haven't looked at the specific wave height for Del Norte County, but in my memory, it ranges between 10 and 15 meters on the open coastline. If you want, we can spend some other time looking at those specific heights if you'd like to do that. I'd be willing to meet with you at some point.
No, I appreciate that, Jason. Thank you for that follow-up. And yes, probably in the future we'll go ahead and have that discussion.
Great.
But in the convenience of time and moving forward, my follow-up to this is more related to how this relates to flood mapping and impacts on homeowners insurance policies. Does this type of mapping at all take into account or impact homeowners insurance policies for any residents within these run-up zones?
So currently, and I'll ask Rick Wilson to chime in after I'm done, just to make sure that we're doing our due diligence. Currently, FEMA does not incorporate tsunami hazards into their flood insurance rate maps. So the short answer is no. We don't know if they're going to be doing that in the future, but as of today, the short answer is no. Is there something else you'd like to add, Rick?
I think you've covered it. I think the key is that these, another question we get is, do these end up in disclaimers for property sales? These particular maps that we're creating here are not for those purposes. They're strictly for evacuation planning. So we make that very specific on the maps, but it's a great question. And we do have other sets of maps coming out in the next year or two that will probably be more addressing those, and we'll make sure to work with the county on that when those come out.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Don't want to hog the time. Board, is there any questions for our presenters?
I have one quick question, but this was so thorough that it answered. I had a big list, so it's only one. Is that how long will it be for us to roll out the current signage and the notifications to those residents who are now in that zone?
All right, so I will take that one. Following this presentation, we also plan to do a presentation to City Council on the 16th of February. And then we should have physical maps to begin to distribute to the community. We're planning on having those available by March 11th for the 10-year remembrance of the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami. The third week of March is Tsunami Week in California. and we'll be doing a lot of outreach and education that week. And that kicks off a 6-month program for us, which is going to culminate on October 22nd. We hope to do a full-scale community-wide exercise involving this new information. And so we'll be spending time throughout the summer working with the public to get this information out there. And then we're going to invite the public to play with us in October when we exercise this with our OES partners.
Great, thank you. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Other board comments or questions? Okay, let's see if there's anybody in the public at this time, Kylie, that might have questions.
Chair, I'm not seeing any at this time. I don't know if you wanted me to give it a couple more seconds, but right now I don't see any.
If they come in and the board's follow up, we'll go ahead and be sure to address those.
Okay.
So at this time, let's go ahead and circle back with the board. Board, what's your will on this item?
I move that we approve and adopt a resolution adopting the California Tsunami Hazard Area Maps for Del Norte County as requested by our Emergency Services Manager.
And I can second that.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second. Kylie, just making sure nobody's there.
Nope, I still don't see anyone.
Okay, very good. Please pull the vote.
Chair Hemming, oh, excuse me, I apologize. Supervisor Hemmingson.
Yeah.
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Chair Howard?
Yes. Thank you for the wonderful presentation of today, and more importantly, working towards those efforts for the recognition on March 11th, 2021 of the Tehuco earthquake. We also look forward to seeing you at the City Council meeting and more importantly, addressing these matters in February. Appreciate your time and patience with us today and getting to this agenda item. I know it was time, but really appreciate you hanging in there with us. And more importantly, recognize all the important work you do to protect our communities. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, supervisors.
Thank you, board.
All right, let's go ahead and return to our agenda. Kylie, if I'm not mistaken, we're down to one item and one item only. Is that correct?
We have the consider miscellaneous legislative and budget matters and supervisor reports.
I thought we took up the budget transfers. Is that?
We did do the budget transfer already, yes.
So as far as legislative and budget issues, Jay, do we have anything at this time to report out?
I'll just update the board that we'll be coming forward with a mid-year budget report. It'll be relatively straightforward, but we have a memo out to the individual departments regarding information that we'd like to see. Once that comes in, we'll form that. It'll come back in February, likely at the second meeting.
Okay. Jay, if I could, I've been getting a lot of questions specific to Measure R, and I know staff is working diligently on this as we approach our budget consideration for this coming fiscal year. What can you kind of outline for us briefly the steps that staff are taking to get us on track in a timely manner to basically express the vote of the community on Measure R?
So currently we're forming the community oversight. Well, we're not forming it at this point. We're setting the table for the formation of a community oversight committee. We have a resolution in with county council, and when that comes back, we'll bring that back to the board of supervisors to ultimately form the committee, take in applications, those types of steps. And the Measure R will not come into effect. There won't be money being actually into any type of a budget situation until, well, beginning on April 1. So as we go through the remainder of the final quarter of the fiscal year, there will be a little bit of money that comes in that will be put in a separate account. And ultimately what I think will happen will be the board will consider that fund separate from the overall budget so that there's a lot of transparency in regards to what funding is available. And then the board will make decisions in regards to timing for any expenditures. because obviously as we go by fiscal years, there will be very limited funds at the beginning. And then over the next year, obviously we'll know how much annually will be coming in. I think the board is pretty aware that all sales tax goes to the state and then is returned back to the county. And there was an agreement that we had to enter into previously that is required by government code or California code. And it allows the state to charge for those funds and accept those funds through the taxation and then process that back to the counties. And there is a cost with that also. So those are the general steps that we're going to be taking. Once we get the resolution back from council, then we will present that to the board and begin taking applications through our typical committee application process.
Thank you for updating us on that, Jay. I know this is an extremely important measure. We do understand the controversial nature of it, specific to Measure R and the closeness of the vote within the community, but as also reflected in the city's Measure S, which was very similar. The community spoke very loud about the importance of public safety in our area and our streets and roads and other aspects that we attempted to address with this measure. So I want to make sure that the community is aware that we are moving forward as quickly and as swiftly as possible to roll this out to address those matters that were very important in Measure R as we move forward. So thank you for that update, Jay. All right. And since there is no further comments on the legislative and budget matters, at this time, we're going to go ahead and receive brief reports from our board of supervisors. I know that sometimes those aren't brief, and I am guilty of that along with some other folks, but we do a lot of work for the board. So if you're still with us, thanks for hanging in. Supervisor Starkey, could you please kick us off?
Thank you. Since our last meeting, I attended the Coastal Commission meeting where they discussed and moved to approve the Dr. Fine Bridge project. I did not realize it was going to be a marathon meeting. I ran an errand, considered taking a nap, but about 6 hours into it, our matter was called, and it was a real thorough presentation, and the commission approved the project. I followed up with Caltrans District 1 project managers Matthew Brady and Richard Moland, who said that the Coastal Commission's approval was a significant milestone, that they have other permits to acquire. Their project is nearing completion for the planning design. They anticipate receiving the remaining permits by April or May of this year, and they are on target to request the funding from the California Transportation Commission in June. So that's exciting news. It will be moving forward, hopefully. I attended the RCRC's virtual reception. I accompanied the roads department to watch the process of the breaching of the lake. At our last board meeting, we approved an emergency resolution for that to occur. And I was able to meet with Road Superintendent Jeff Daniels, the Assistant Superintendent Richard Mello, and the Director of CDD Heidi Kunstl to watch the breach of the lake take place. I was real fortunate because I rode out to the site with Mr. Daniels and Ms. Kunstl, and they took the time to explain the process of the actual breach, the conditions, the regulations, and the history behind that. I attended the Solid Waste Authority Management meeting. It was an opportunity for me to meet Ted Ward, and I'm just trying to familiarize myself with this actual JPA and what my role might be in these committees moving forward. I inherited a very, very large binder outlining what I need to learn, which I will be reading this weekend. I attended the city council meeting. These are all virtually, of course. I am continued to be impressed with the city staff and their hard work that they pour into our community. I toured the county operated campgrounds and parks. I was very appreciative of Alan Winograd, I hope I got that right, for taking Supervisor Short and I around to all the county maintained campgrounds and parks. And he explained the role of his department in keeping those maintained. And I just want to say that I cannot say enough how much pride Alan has for the properties along with his knowledge of the operations and his commitment to our community. It's impressive. I attended the Crescent City Oversight Committee meeting, again, just as a way to introduce myself in the event that I am working on these committees in the future. I attended the economic workshop put on by the city. It was a very informative and interactive workshop that involved the public in the decision-making process. I'm encouraged by the city's direction. I attended the the Recreation Department's planning session for Pikes Field. Recreation Director Kim Nugent led a series of meetings in which she sought input for Pikes Field. And the county is going to be submitting a grant application made available by Prop 68 to compete for funding to renovate Pikes Field. And so that's going to be a very exciting project too. I had discussions with Veteran Services Director Aaron Goodwin regarding the history of computer access for veterans at the VFW Hall. I'd received an inquiry as to why we're not allowing more computer access for veterans, and Director Goodwin provided me with information as to why those computers were removed initially. He stated we could begin a discussion on reinstalling those computers, but he also informed me that the Veteran Services Department is always willing to help veterans log onto the computer and fill out all the forms for the benefit forms. And that veterans can also use their mail as a place, or use their address as a place to receive mail. You guys all probably knew that, but I didn't, so I thought it was worth sharing. I began the CERT training process. The first phases of the training process are online, and you can complete those at your own pace. I'm initiating a preliminary plan to organize a cemetery cleanup. I'm reaching out to the 3 main stakeholders who have interest in the cemetery. I'm hoping to coordinate a site-wide cleanup with some sort of ongoing effort to keep all 3 sections maintained. I know the county does their job and their fair share, but I'd like to make sure that the other stakeholders are invested as well. I had a brief conversation with the chair of the Juvenile Justice Commission regarding a possible appointment to the commission. I'm very interested in this commission, should they agree to include me, because there's going to be a number of changes coming up with regard to juvenile laws and housing of juvenile offenders. And so I would love to just be a part of the discussion on how best to prepare our county for the possibility of needing to house violent youthful offenders, which would have normally been adjudicated to DJJ, which is formerly known as CYA. I had a brief telephone call with Senator McGuire. He reiterated more information about a bond, which is coming due soon to fund of building affordable housing and how that's going to impact some rural counties such as ours. As you know, you might know that the rent moratorium was extended until June of 2021. Senator McGuire is also attempting to get further legislation through that would allow landlords to collect 80% of the delinquent monies owed to them if they agree to delay eviction for even beyond that June date. So as we get more information for that, I will share it. I just want to remind everybody that February 5th is Wear Red Day. We want to raise awareness for heart disease in women. And as always, District 2, you can contact me with any questions or concerns on how you would like me to spend my time.
Thank you, Supervisor Starkey. Supervisor Short.
Yes, thank you. I spent some time with Director Aaron Goodwin talking about his area of responsibility and challenges with child support services and being a veteran services officer. I attended the California Health and Human Services update on the state's COVID-19 response. It was led by Secretary Dr. Mark Galey. As Ms. Starkey said, we toured county parks and maintenance areas of responsibility with Director Winogradov. Very much appreciate that. It was very educational and well worth our time. I attended the Crescent City Oversight Board to the successor agency meeting. Also attended the Parks and Rec Prop 68 grant public forum for Pikes Field. Yes, we're hopeful that grant will be awarded. It'd be a great thing to see Pikes Field rehabilitated. Also attended the Crescent City Economic Development Strategic Master Plan meeting. Was very impressed with the comprehensive discussion that we had there and community input as well. On a personal note, we were called out by Klamath Fire Department yesterday for a house that was on fire, and just thoughts and prayers go out to the family who lost their home. It was completely destroyed there. So that is my report.
Thank you, Supervisor Short. Supervisor Hemmingson.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Howard. I had a few things going on. Had a Del Norte Local Transportation Commission meeting. As Supervisor Starkey mentioned, RCRC, which is representing California rural counties, had a virtual installation of officers this year. Stacy Corliss is our new chairman. She was moved up from first vice chair. Dan Miller from Nevada County is now our first vice president, and Doug Teeter, newly elected to the second vice chair position. And our immediate past chair is now Darren McDaniels. I had a whale working group call, as well as a risk assessment meeting. Had a NCRP meeting, which is the North Coast Resource Partnership meeting. And also had another RCRC meeting, executive meeting, where we interviewed candidates for the president's position. Greg Norton, who is recently retired, is being replaced. So we're working on that, and that's it for me.
Wow. Thank you for the brief report, Supervisor Hemmingson.
Yeah, I appreciate those brief reports also.
Not sure I'm going to be able to go there this time. I think I need a little competition with Supervisor Starkey on a report. I do want to read into my report for the record, following up on an FPPC complaint that in regards to 4 complaints around Measure R. And I think it's important that we read this statement that was also given to our press and to those that complained. The Fair Political Practices Commission has officially and finally determined that the complaints filed against Supervisors Jerry Hemmingson, Chris Howard, Lori Cowan, Bob Berkowitz, as well as County Administration Officer Jay Serena and Emergency Services Manager Kimmy Scott in relationship to the Public Reform Act are without merit. The FPPC Enforced Division has further determined that the actions taken by the county to inform voters did not violate the PRA that regulates such matters, and any and all allegations of legal inconsistency are in all actuality false. As stated in the response letter to the complaints, Donna Westfald and Linda Sunner, sworn complaint witnessed by Roger Gitlin and Wesley Nunn, that the matter was closed by the FPPC and no enforcement action would be pursuant due to the insufficient evidence. After all complaints filed were denied by the FPPC Enforcement Division, the complainant then filed a request for reconsideration of the complaint with the Executive Director's Office of the FPPC. The request for reconsideration was reviewed and found to be no good cause that would direct the Chief of the Enforcement Division to reopen this matter. It was found that the mailers prepared by the County of Del Norte did not expressly advocate or unambiguously urge a particular result for or against Measure R as defined in the statute and regulation. Additionally, the Enforcement Division concluded that both the robocalls and the mailers were informational in nature and presented possible outcomes should Measure R be approved by voters. The use of the consultant is not prohibited by the Act. Therefore, the request for reconsideration under Regulation 18360 Subdivision D was denied, and this matter will remain closed. I thought that was important to share with the public joining us today and the board members that were impacted by these complaints to the FPPC. The next, I'd like to discuss several things. One, appreciation of the time that staff and our consultants are spending on the Klamath River Dam Removal Project. I know this is a lingering issue and concerns related to the removal of the dam and impacts on our infrastructure. and really appreciate staff's time on this and seeking resolution through MOU with KRC. So let's keep it going, and hopefully we could have some closure soon. Also took calls and considerations on issues around Big Rock Community Service District and concerns with the Community Development Department around permitting on the Monument Drive area, as announced by Supervisor Short and Supervisor Hemmingson attended the Del Norte Local Transportation Commission meeting. And in addition, as expressed, attended the Crescent City Economic Development Workshop. It was a good meeting, good workshop. Glad the city is pursuing this, and more importantly, Mr. Holcomb and Robert Holman's presentation was quite well, and glad to see all the participation. In following up on last week's concerns, and more importantly, a letter that the board did send to the North Coast Regional Water Quality Control Board staff specific to salt and nutrient planning for their public agenda in April. We had a meeting set up by Community Development, Heidi Kimes, where we had a chance to meet with the planning person around that activity, Chris Waters. I'm sorry to say that Chris was unable to relieve the concerns as this planning document moves forward to the Planning Commission. As suspected, the data that has gone into the modeling that has given a high priority ranking to the Smith River Plain seems in all actuality to be incorrect in many respects, giving us very high scores in areas that we believe are inaccurate. Even though we have shared much of this data with the North Coast board member, not board member, but staffer Chris Waters, he was reluctant to do many of these changes as it would create sort of a can of worms where any public member could come in and potentially change the data, creating a lot more work for himself, as he's the only staffer for the North Coast board trying to move this policy matter for the Recycled Water Act forward. That's not a legitimate concern, in my opinion. The data in cannot be garbage because what ends up coming out is garbage. And so I believe the board should stay persistent in this, and more importantly, express our reservations when this is presented at the public hearing in April to the North Coast Regional Water Quality Control Board. I attended agenda review, and then also worked very closely with CSAC representatives in the Community Development Department in continuing to understand SB 901 and the regulations that are being formed by the Board of Forestry around this that could really have a substantial impact on the remaining private lands developable in our county. I know RCRC and CSAC are working quite closely with the Board of Forestry to try to figure out how we get around this, and more importantly, some exemptions for rural communities, but we're a long way from being there, and concerns are still quite strongly in place. The one meeting that took quite a bit of time this last week was a meeting of stakeholders for the CalPERS, which is our retirement fund for the state of California. And as our new board members will learn, this in our budget is a massive unfunded liability based on some really crazy calculations that the county or other counties or other public agencies have really no ability to change in the modeling exercise that creates this unfunded liability. And as this presentation, which was 8 hours, took place, I became extremely concerned with the policies of CalPERS board that essentially taxes to a certain extent at a 7% rate that unfunded liability for Del Norte County, which ours is in the $50 million neighborhood. And at a 7% on 50 million, you know, you guys, this is the kind of things that presents a lot of concern and worry to me as we roll forward in budgeting processes, how small rural towns like ours are going to be able to afford essentially these policy decisions. To boot that up with their investment strategies, which again come from policies from our governor where they invest in more green initiatives or other types of investment that don't earn high rates of return, CalPERS is seeing annually returns below 7%, which begs the question, why do we continue to invest in these areas that don't earn the rate of returns that are needed to begin to relieve the pressures against rural counties and paying these unfunded liabilities? So I want us to stay on top of this, and more importantly, at some point, have discussions with staff on how we could relieve some of this burden moving forward in the future, because I see this as a big chain around our neck and something to address as we move forward in our budgetary discussions this coming year. Attended a Solid Waste Management Authority meeting, and I was appreciative to see other supervisors join in to see and learn about what will now become a new committee for them. We did address some issues around treated wood, which seems to be a real legacy issue because of some legislation that has now left California no place to dump treated wood, and major oversight by our legislature and our governor in this case. As mentioned by Supervisor Short, attended the Oversight Board Committee, also attended the first 5 Family Partnerships Commission meeting. That commission will be going to Supervisor Starkey, and I appreciate her stepping up for first 5. Unfortunately, we will be losing our Executive Director, Angela Glore, here soon. And I wish Angela the best of luck in finding her new career and new aspirations around children's services in the future. With Supervisor Jerry Hemmingson, I also attended the NCRP meeting, which is the North Coast Resource Partnership meeting. And then in addition, I had a great meeting with Council General Miata of the Japan who represents the Northern California region for Japan. He was out of San Francisco, just got that job most recently. And he wants to help us work on areas around remembrance of the great Tohoku earthquake of March 11, 2011. And more than happy to have his help and maybe join with some of our efforts of emergency services as we roll forward this year. And lastly, as mentioned by Supervisor Starkey, the efforts around Dr. Fine Bridge and the most important pieces to replace that, and bureaucracies that essentially end up having control whether our little bridge gets replaced on Highway 101, which is a major connector. Appreciate you attending that, Supervisor. Be it known that we were able to resolve some issues with neighbors and have worked out an agreement with those neighbors in respect to Dr. Fine Bridge, and happy that there won't be any further action needed around that in moving that project forward from that respect. And I'm glad the Coastal Commission efforts are also gaining traction. So hopefully that'll go to the Transportation Commission soon for funding, and we'll be underway with one of our main thoroughfares that traverses north. And with that, we'll go ahead and end my dissertation. Appreciate everybody's time today. It was a very informative meeting, and thank you, staff, for bringing everything to us. We look forward to visiting with you next month and having a terrific meeting. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time.
Thanks. Bye.